Fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charlie Hutton, and this morning I'm going to show you exactly what these nuns with guns have got to do with helping you legally murder your competitors online. But before we get into all that good stuff, whenever I'm in your guys' position, especially after we've loaded up on lunch, I'm sort of sat there, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Do I really want to listen to this guy? Or should I break my phone out of my pocket, perhaps see what's been happening on the email, and possibly send a few tweets on Twitter? So to answer that question for you this morning, I'm going to make you a very quick promise. If you keep your phones in your pocket, if you suck it up, if you pay attention, if you listen for the next 17 minutes or so, you're going to leave this session this morning with a mapped out online lead generation system for your business, something you can implement in the next 7 to 10 days. Does that sound good? Say yes, Charlie, it lets me know that you're awake and you're paying attention. Does that sound good? Fantastic. So before we get into all that good stuff, I'm going to tell you a very quick story. It's a story that I'm kind of embarrassed to tell, but one that you ultimately need to hear because it's going to help you make the shift in your mindset from that of the mediocre majority to the entrepreneurial elite. Now, this story starts in September last year in a small town just outside New York City, a place called Groton in Connecticut. You see, I was out in Groton, Connecticut, delivering a keynote speech in front of around 1,000 or so direct marketers. And after I got off my 10-hour flight, I'd landed at the high-end Hilton hotel that they put me up in. I'm unpacking my stuff, ready to get on stage the next day, and I come to the slow realization that I'd forgotten the collar stays, or the collar stiffeners for my shirt. Now, for those of you that don't know what collar stays or collar stiffeners are, they're pretty much a small magnetic clip that you put inside the collar of your shirt so that when you're on stage, especially in front of a big audience like that, you look super pristine and you look the part. As you can imagine, on this sort of thing, this was a pretty big deal for me. So I run down to the gift shop at this high-end Hilton hotel. They haven't got any there. My next port of call was a nice young lady at reception. And I say, look, can you do me a massive favour? Can you point me in the direction of the best menswear store that Groton, Connecticut has to offer? And she says, no problem at all, sir. All we need to do is head out the big glass doors, take a left down Main Street, take your first right, and you'll be at the best menswear store Groton, Connecticut has to offer. It's called the Walmart. Now, as you can imagine, not the answer that I was expecting, but when in Rome. So I jump into the hire car and I head down to the best menswear store that Groton, Connecticut has to offer, where apparently you can buy a 3-piece tailor-made suit for less than $50, but you can't get a single set of these collar stays. So after about 2 more hours of driving around, I end up at what the Americans call a Kmart. Now, I don't know if anyone's ever been to a Kmart in the US before, but it's pretty much the UK equivalent of a TK Maxx. But by the time I end up at this Kmart, I've been driving around for 2 hours, I'm tired, I'm pissed off, and I can't believe that I'm in a town so bumpkiny that I can't even get a set of these collar stays for my shirt. And in that sort of language, I say to the poor young lady that's stacking the shelves, I say, look, I'm a really important person. I'm a 2 times best-selling author. I've got this big speaking engagement tomorrow in front of 1,000 or so people. Surely somewhere in this store, you must have a single set of these collar stays. And she looks at me square in the eyes and addresses me in probably the tone of voice that I would speak to my 2-year-old, and she says, no, sir, I'm afraid we don't. She then says, but, sir, we do have men's dress shirts with freshly pressed, super stiff collars. You could just buy a new shirt, sir. You see, that was the obvious answer. I spent the last 2 hours driving around like a headless chicken when all I needed to do was buy a new shirt. And it's exactly the same when it comes to marketing our businesses online. You see, when it comes to marketing our businesses online, we chase the wrong things. We chase what I call new metrics. So we're constantly being told that we need to look at things like likes, friends, CPC, PPC, hits, and all this other stuff, which doesn't actually generate a revenue at the end of the month. And while we're on this topic, can I get a quick show of hands? Does everyone know what I mean when I say the term hits, website hits? Yeah? Show of hands? Perfect. So you guys know that HIT stands for How Idiots Track Success. Now, I'm only joking, but the reason I say that is when it comes to marketing your business online, I can't stand any uncertainty for any sort of advertising spend. In my eyes, if you are spending £1 on your advertising online, that should be generating at least £1 on return in the back of your business. The trouble we have when it comes to marketing any sort of business online, as business owners, we sort of have a diminished expectation for the results. We sort of say to ourselves, hey, you know what, everyone's doing this internet thing. We should probably do it. But you know what, if we don't get a huge response, then that's okay. But if the phone rings a couple of times, then hey, that's good with me. And the reason we don't get the response that we want online is because not every single person that hits our website is ready or able to make a purchasing decision today. Let me say that again. Not every single person that hits your website is ready or able to make a purchasing decision today. It comes down to what we call a timing issue. And in order to demonstrate this timing issue, what I'd like to do this morning is take a very quick poll of the room. Could I get a show of hands, please, for the amount of husbands that we've got in the room this morning? I was going to say loving husbands, but I think we'll stick with husbands this morning. So we've got quite a few of you guys. So let's take you guys and let's add you to a big pool of 1,000 loving husbands. How many of these 1,000 loving husbands do you think woke up this Wednesday morning, rolled over, looked at their wife and thought, you know what, my wife is awesome. I must take my wife out to dinner this evening? Probably 2, 3, maybe 5 out of those 1,000 husbands. Now let's ask ourselves this question. Out of those same devoted 1,000 loving husbands, how many of them do you think will wake up just one morning in the next 4 weeks, roll over, look at the wife and go, you know what, sweetheart, you cooked an awesome dinner last night. I'll tell you what, let's go out for tea this evening. 20, 30, 50 at a push in the next 4 weeks? Now let's ask ourselves this question. Out of those same devoted 1,000 loving husbands, how many of them do you think will wake up just one morning in the next 12 months and say, shit, I'm in the doghouse. I really must take my wife out to dinner this evening? Probably nearly all of them, right? Because it comes down to what we call a timing issue. And when it comes to marketing your business online, we solve this timing issue with what we call a secondary reason for response. Now, secondary reason for response says this. Our online marketing, our collateral, has not one reason for people to respond, it has 2. The first reason, or the primary reason, is for those people that are ready and able to buy today. They're our prime candidates, if you will. But we also need to have a secondary reason too. A reason for those people that aren't quite ready to buy today, but might be ready to buy in 4 weeks, 12 months' time. We need to have a reason for those people to leave their contact information with us. A reason for those people to leave their contact information with us so that we can start talking to them. They can start getting to know us. We can start building an epic amount of trust and goodwill with them so that when they are ready to buy, they will only want to choose us as a business. Does that make sense? Say yes, Charlie. Let's pretend for a moment we came here voluntarily this morning. So this is how we do this. And when it comes to marketing our business online, we do that with what we call a lead magnet. Now, a lead magnet is something that you guys can create completely free of charge. You can concoct it out of thin air, but it needs to be something that's of perceived informational value to your prospect, to your customer. So it could be a report, a white paper, a how-to guide, some sort of tips or tricks or whatever it might be, but something that your visitor to your online marketing will leave their contact information in exchange for. So as an example, let's take James. Now, James is a new PR manager for IT firm iCloud Solution. And James, in his new role as PR manager, is being tasked with putting on their next annual customer appreciation event. Now, the trouble is, James has got 6 months, 3 weeks, 4 days and 32 minutes until the directors that gave him his job find out if the customer appreciation event that he is planning lives up to last year's runaway success that was a booze-fueled sex romp that would put Charlie Sheen to shame. Now, James is out there today doing the first day of research looking for a venue. And he comes across this awesome venue that we're at today here at the Village Hotel. What are the chances on day 1 of research that James is going to book this venue for his conference in 6 months' time? Slim to none, right? But what are the chances if James is on the Village's website and he sees a big shiny button that says download our free guide, the 27 things that you must do in order to throw the best customer appreciation event that your business has ever seen? What are the chances he's going to leave his contact information then? Extremely high, right? Because it helps him solve a problem. And that's exactly what a lead magnet is there to do. It is there to help people solve their problems. And of course, once James has left his contact information with the Village Hotel, well, what can we do? We can start talking to him. He can start getting to know us. We can start getting to know him. We can start building some epic amounts of goodwill so that when he is ready to book that venue, we are the only venue that he wants to choose. You see, what lead magnets allow you to do is, lead magnets allow you to build a list of future customers. Lead magnets ultimately help you get off that income roller coaster and actually iron out that curve, because you can start building a list of people that aren't quite ready to buy today, but will be ready to buy in the future. Does that make sense? Can you guys see how lead magnets can start making acquiring customers that much simpler? Yes, Charlie? Fantastic. So with all that being said, in order to take a lead magnet and start turning that into sales on demand, we need to plug this into some sort of system. And it's what we call a 3-step conversion system. Now, a 3-step conversion system by its nature has 3 steps. Step 1 is a small amount of targeted traffic, and the 2 key words there, guys, are small and targeted, and that's where you can get your biggest leverage online. Step number 2 is what we call a capture mechanism or a conversion funnel, and this is an absolute game changer for you guys in the room today. And step number 3 is follow-up. It's pointless collecting all this information if we don't actually do anything with it. I'm going to run through all 3 of these steps this morning in the limited time that we've got together. So let's dive right in. Targeted traffic, step number 1. Now, when it comes to targeted marketing, there's pretty much 3 ways in which you can skin a cat. The first and the most popular way is where you take a big A to Z road planner, I think they still exist, you lay them out on a boardroom table, you take a styrofoam cup, you turn that cup over your business, you take a red Sharpie pen, you draw around that cup, take the cup away, shade in the area, and you say, that's my target market. In other words, it's a radius around your business of what we call geographical targeting. Good method, but what I want to do today is show you how it can be a lot more sophisticated with the way that you start targeting your customers online. And to do that, I'm going to share with you a quick story. About 18 months ago, my mobile phone rings, and just to sort of set the scene here, guys, I very rarely, if ever, take an unscheduled call on my mobile phone. But for whatever reason, this guy gets through to me today, and he says, look, you know what, Charlie, I've seen you speak a couple of times. We're currently running ads on the internet at the moment, but we're getting zero response. So I start talking to this guy, and it turns out this guy's called Ollie, and he runs probably one of the UK's largest concierge services, and what they do is they specialise in helping high net worth business owners to manage their international travel. So I say to Ollie, these ads that you're currently running on the internet, tell me about them, who you're targeting. He says, well, we're sort of targeting people that live in a 25-mile radius of London, because that's where our head office is, so it means that we can get out and see people and they come and see us, which sort of made sense. So I then say to Ollie, tell me about these people that live in a 25-mile radius of London. And he said, well, they like living in the city and they're white collar, which I kind of figured. But what I was trying to do was, I was trying to get Ollie to dive into what we call psychogeographics and psychodemographics, which are two very, very big words and one simple concept. And the concept is this: online privacy is dead. Absolutely terrible news for anyone in the room that is interested in keeping their stuff private. But if there is anyone in this room that is interested in making more sales, generating more profit and getting more revenue, this is the best news that you could have had today. Because if you said to me, Charlie, my ideal customer is a female member of the clergy that campaigns for gun rights and goes to the local Odeon cinema every single Wednesday night to watch reruns of 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, I'm pretty sure we could start finding that customer online. We could start showing ads to those exact demographics within the next 17 minutes or less. You just need to know how and where to find them. So if we were to take Ollie and his concierge business, how could we start being a little bit more sophisticated about the people that he was targeting? Well, we probably still only want to target those people that lived in a 25-mile radius of London. Their main customers were male, so we probably only want to target males. Probably only those males that were aged, I don't know, between 35 and 60, and probably those males that were, I don't know, frequent international travellers as well, because they're a concierge service. Those are the sort of people that they want to target. And like I said, this information is readily available. You just need to know how and where to look for it. And to prove that point, this next slide is taken directly out of Facebook's advertising manager. You see, within the next 7 minutes or less, we could reach 12,011 people that were male, that lived in the United Kingdom, that lived in a 25-mile radius of London, that were aged between 35 and 60, and were international travellers. And we could reach those people for less than 37 pence a click. How cool is that? You see, what it allows us to do is, if we can start targeting based on demographics, it means that we can start cloning our ideal customer. As long as we know who our ideal customer is, we can go out and we can stop wasting our spend on people that might not reach our audience. Does that make sense? So far, we know a couple of things. First of all, we know that we need to have a secondary reason for response, and that comes in the form of a lead magnet. That's right, come on guys, stay awake. We then know that we need to have our three-step conversion system, step one of which consists of a small amount of targeted traffic, and that is going to help us clone our ideal customer. The next question we then have is, with this small amount of targeted traffic, where do we actually want to send these people? Well, we don't want to send them to the homepage of our website. We don't want to send them to an inner page of our website. We don't want to send them to any of our social media profiles. You see, where we want to send these people to is to what we call a capture system or a conversion funnel. And the first part of our conversion funnel is super, super simple. We send them to a page which looks like this. Very, very plain looking page. Minimal company branding, no links going elsewhere. And this page has one goal and one goal only. The goal of this page is to capture the names and the email addresses of as many people as possible that land on it. And this page does this by selling the visitor on why they should download or request your lead magnet. And the key word there, guys, is the word sell, because even though we're giving away something online, giving it away for free, we have less than about 2 seconds to capture someone's interest and capture someone's attention. So we need to sell them on the benefits of how this is going to help them solve their problems and why they should be leaving their contact information with us. Now, you guys might be sat there thinking, you know what, Charlie, this isn't rocket science. We see this happen all the time. In fact, we've got something on our website which captures people's names and email addresses. The trouble is, the majority of businesses, when they do this sort of thing, is they then send someone to a thank you page, and that thank you page says, awesome decision, we've just sent you an email with your guide or your report attached. Now, what I recommend you do, what I recommend my private clients do, and what I recommend my international corporate clients do is we send them to step 2 of our conversion funnel, because at step 2 of our conversion funnel, what we do is we ask for their full contact information. We ask for a full address, we ask for a telephone number, and we ask them some sort of qualification question. We say something along the lines of, hey, great decision on requesting your lead magnet. What I'd really love to do is send you out a free physical copy in the post. Something you can scribble some notes on, something you can share around the office, something you can really digest. And in order to send that out, I just need you to tell me where to send it, and what I do is I make sure it gets rushed out to you in the post today, first class. Do you know what will happen? 70 to 80% of people that landed or completed step number 1 will complete this step number 2 too. And the difference between someone that completes step number 1 and step number 2, someone that completes step number 2 is infinitely more qualified than someone that's just going to give you their name and email address. So straight away we are starting to sift and qualify our leads as they are coming into our funnel, so we know the people we want to talk to. The second thing to note about this is, of course, if someone completes step number 2, we're not doing like everyone else in the marketplace is doing and just following up via email. Because what we can start doing now is we can start using mixed media. We can start sending them stuff in the post. We can start communicating with them via text message. We can even, God forbid, pick up and have a conversation with someone over the telephone. But step number 2 allows us to do that. Now, is this all making sense so far? Yes, Charlie, fantastic. Now, if someone completes step number 2, we're still not done with them here. If someone completes step number 2, we then send them to step number 3. And at step number 3, what we do is we ask them to complete our primary reason for response. So if that is to request a callback, this is where we ask for it. If that's to book a consultation, this is where we ask for it. If this is where we want them to actually buy something, we ask them for it at this step here. Because what we've done now is we've got someone to complete what we call 2 micro commitments. Micro commitment number 1 was to leave their name and email address. Micro commitment number 2 was leave their full contact information. So by the time to get to step number 3, human psychology kicks in. As human beings, we love to complete what we've finished. So we've got them 2 steps down the rabbit hole onto completing this thing. So even if at step number 1 they had no interest whatsoever of completing your primary reason for response, by the time they get to step number 3, they will be infinitely more qualified to do it. Does that make sense? Can you guys see how that works? Perfect. So with that being said, this morning we've covered a couple of things. We know that we need to have a secondary reason for response, and that comes in the form of a lead magnet. And we then know that we need to have this 3-step conversion system. Step number 1, where we have a small amount of targeted traffic that maps our ideal customer. Step number 2 is where we put them through this conversion funnel. And then the next question we need to ask ourselves, what the hell do we do with these people once we've got their contact information? And that is extremely simple answer. Because what we need to do is we need to make sure that we follow up. It's pointless collecting this information if we don't actually have a system or a process for following these people up. And the way that I talk about following or doing follow-up is probably ever so slightly different that you might have seen or you might have heard of before. In order to demonstrate this, I'm going to share with you my last and final story of the day. You see, going back probably about almost 3 years ago now, I'm coming down the stairs in my house, and at the bottom of the stairs in my house, we've got a front door. So any post that comes through the door, you can see as soon as you're coming down the stairs. And on this Thursday morning, I pick up this envelope, I open it, and I've got this letter from a nice young lady called Stephanie. And Stephanie works in the accounts department at Wonga.com. Has everyone heard of the payday loan company Wonga? Fantastic. So Stephanie is writing to me, and the letter goes something like this. Dear Mr. Hutton, you recently borrowed £21,584 from us. You have not paid us back. We now would like our money, please. Now, the trouble with this letter was I'd not actually borrowed any money from Wonga. Someone had stolen my identity, taken out this loan in my place, and now Wonga were hunting me down for the cash. For most people, this would be a massive pain in the arse. For me, the ever-optimist, I was like, this is awesome. I am going to get to see firsthand how Wonga managed to extract money out of people that have no money. Imagine if you could take their principle and apply it to businesses that actually sold something of value and had some people that might actually want to take them up on the offer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the process that Wonga used to extract this money out of no money, because I'm pretty sure anyone ever borrowed more than 20 grand from Wonga and not paid them back? Didn't think so. So I'm going to walk you through this process now. It's very, very simple. You see, what Wonga happens is you go onto their website, you fill out their nice sliders, you borrow said money from them, you don't pay them back, and then Stephanie gets on your case. And she pretty much goes like this. She sends you a first notice, a second notice, a third notice, a fourth notice, a fifth notice. I got all the way up to notice number 7 until my fraud got sorted out. I'm pretty sure Stephanie will keep hunting you down until you pay back or until you die. There's a couple of things to note about these notices that come out from Wonga. First of all, there's minimal branding on all of their communications. Everything looks like it's come direct and personally from Stephanie. So they're using Stephanie to build a relationship with me. Thing number 2 to note about the communication, they are always building epic amount of goodwill. By the time I got the third piece of correspondence, I genuinely thought that Stephanie cared about my so-called financial hardship. By the time I got correspondence number 7, I felt compelled to send them some money. It was unbelievable. Stephanie, she was giving me guides, she was giving me calculators, she was giving me the best financial advice that I had ever had, and I've got a pretty good financial advisor. She was giving me all this information, building this epic amount of goodwill so that I felt compelled to give her some cash. And the third and the final thing to note about these correspondents, they used mixed media. They didn't just use email. They didn't just use letters. They didn't just use the telephone. They used all 3. So if you are looking to get the response that you want out of your follow-up, especially from a digital perspective, don't do what everyone else does. Don't send one crummy designed HTML email which has got your logo at the top. If you want the secret of response from your digital marketing, especially email follow-up, you need to make sure that it's multiple step. So that's sending multiple sequences or multiple emails as part of a campaign. Those emails need to make and look like they've come from a real human being. And last and by no means least, if possible, if you have got their contact information, you need to make sure that you are sending related stuff to these people out in the post. That is the only way to make this sort of follow-up work. Otherwise, you just mix into the same blend of everyone else that is doing this sort of thing. Is that making sense so far? Everyone understand that? So, in summary, to legally merge your competitors online, we need a few things. First of all, we need this understanding of secondary reason for response, which comes in the form of a lead magnet, that's right. Thing number 2, in order to generate these sales on demand, we need our 3-step conversion system. Step number 1 is a small amount of targeted traffic, that's right, which is ideally made up of our ideal customer. Step number 2 is we need a conversion system where, first of all, we're going to capture someone's name and email address. We are then going to capture their full contact information, and then finally, we're going to ask them to complete our primary reason to response once we've got them to complete these 2 micro commitments. And then last and by no means least, we're going to have a follow-up system in place too. And this follow-up system needs to do 3 things. First of all, it needs to be multi-step. That means not just one piece of communication. Second of all, it needs to build an epic amount of trust and goodwill by making sure it's sent or looks like it's been sent from a real human being. Don't kid for a moment that Stephanie is a real person. She's probably someone that's completely made up. You can make up people too, or perhaps with automated stuff that goes out from your individuals in your company. And thing number 3, if possible, we need to make sure that it's going over multiple medias. So that's not just relying on email, that's making sure we're using good old-fashioned direct mail and the telephone too. Is that all clear? Yeah. Fantastic. So with all that being clear, there's a couple of problems with everything that we've talked about this morning. Because you see over here, we have all these new ideas and new information and the good intentions that you guys are going to leave this room with today. And over here, we have the actual implementation of that stuff. And in the middle, we have this great big gap between new ideas, new information, good intentions, and the actual implementation. And the problem with that is, 48 hours from now, you will have forgotten half of everything that I've told you. Even more worryingly than that, 16 days from now, you won't even remember being in this room, let alone remember what my name is. And to be fair to a few of you guys, I have seen some of you taking notes. And as an avid note taker myself, let's be honest with each other, note taker to note taker, we all have that place. For me, it's a passenger seat of my car. For you, it could be the in-tray in your desk office. It could be under the kids' bunk bed. But as note takers, we all have that place where notes from seminars, conferences, and exhibitions like today go to gather dust, never to be seen again. And if I'm honest with you, notes aren't really any way to sort of like bridge that gap from new ideas, new information, good intentions, and the actual implementation of this thing. So in order to help you bridge that gap, I've got a couple of things for you today. First of all, number 1, in your goodie bag, which is outside, there is a copy of my new best-selling book called The Business Owner's Guide to Making Out Like a Bandit. And in there, we talk around things like lead magnets and the other bits and pieces to help you guys stay on track once you've left this room today. The second thing that we have, option number 2, is for those people that have liked what you've learned today. Because if you've liked what you've learned today and you've sat there and you said, you know what, maybe there is something here that we could use in our business. maybe there is just one thing that Charlie has said today that we could use to start generating some more leads and more qualified customers for our company. Because if you said maybe this morning, what I would like to do is I would like to help you map out and implement and apply this whole thing to your guys' business. Ultimately give you sort of like a fast-track, bespoke blueprint guide as to how this system could be applied to you and what you guys do. Now, with that being said, this sort of option number 2, it's not for everybody. It is definitely not for people that are looking for an implement in 5 minutes or a quick fix type solution. But if you are the sort of business, or you are the sort of the business owner that believes in yourself, is willing to make changes and take action on the recommendations that we make, you could turn slow sales months into record-setting quarters. And to set the bar here, guys, I've got a corporate client at the moment out in Qatar, and he's paying me £1,200 an hour to talk him through and implement this thing, literally, so he can stop banging his head against the wall. But because you guys are in this room this morning, because the guys at Griffin King have done an absolutely awesome deal for you, you can get this mapped out for your business. You can spend an hour with me on the phone for absolutely nothing, completely free of charge. However, there is a slight caveat. There are only 5 spots available on this offer, and this offer is by application only. The reason it's by application only is simply because my time is precious to me. I want to make sure that I am only talking to businesses and business owners that are serious about making changes that I recommend. The reason why is because I've got a 2-year-old son called Barney. He's absolutely awesome, and I love spending time with him. So any time that I take away on the phone speaking to business owners like yourselves means that I'm sacrificing time with him. So if you would like to spend an hour with me on the phone completely free of charge, all you need to do, over on that table there is a series of application forms. Fill in that application form, put it in the black box, and then what will happen is Emma at my office, she will go through each of these applications. She will review it one by one. If you are successful, we hopefully will chat together on a phone for an hour. If you're not successful, she will let you know as well. So if you would like to invest in yourself or your business, simply complete the form, put it in the box, and we can go to there. And this offer will expire in the next 10 minutes. So that just leaves me to say thank you ever so much for listening to me this morning. I don't know if we've still got time for questions, Janet, or if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to take those now.
Does Emma really exist?
Does what, sorry?
Does Emma really
Yeah, Emma is a real person. She's my wife. Although not every single email that you get from Emma will be necessarily a real email. I will keep you guessing.
Why did you not use lollipop sticks to stick your collars up?
That would have been genius. Or toothpicks, someone said in the past as well. Yeah. Yes.
You're not very technical on these auto distributors and things. How do you manage to do it? Because I think that's the thing for me. The whole IT piece scares the hell out of me. So
To be honest, it's a lot easier than you would probably think. A lot of the software and the tools out there now are designed for people with probably minimum technical expertise. Emma, my wife, prime example, she's got no idea how technical stuff types works, but she can get in and she can set up a follow-up sequence with some of the tools that are available in probably under 10 minutes. The hardest part normally is actually coming up with the content and actually writing the stuff that you want to send. The actual implementation of this stuff is normally the easiest part. Any other questions? Fantastic. Thank you ever so much for listening.